Hi everyone, welcome to day one of sourdough. So we are starting the wonderful sourdough journey together, and what I hope to do is kind of demystify it all and to help you get that wonderful first loaf of sourdough bread started. So my name's Colette Matriga, I'm a Thermomix consultant, and I have actually in the past taught sourdough classes to many thousands of people. And you know, the majority have had great success, which has been wonderful. So sourdough is basically a bread that is used with natural yeasts to help it rise, and the fermentation process of that is obviously got so many health benefits. The bread also lasts a bit longer, which is good as well. Now on this journey, I'm not going to use big words. I'm not going to make it complicated. I'm going to keep it as easy and simple as I possibly can. Now, every one of us, actually I know a lot of you have actually made sourdough before, but basically it's all going to be different. The journey is going to be different for everyone, and you've got to be at peace with that. So for example, on day 5 of my sourdough journey, you might see loads and loads of bubbles and fermentation and activity. But yours might just have 1 or 2 little bubbles. It's okay. Some of us it will take a week, some of us it will take 2 weeks. So please just keep that in the back of your mind. What you mustn't do is give up and throw that sourdough away, that starter away. You've got to keep on going. Now, at the moment, it's probably for me not the best time to make a sourdough starter. And the reason for that, in my house, it's a little bit cold. So ideally, we're looking for a temperature to make a sourdough of about 21 degrees to 26 degrees. So if you're up in the sunny coast or up in Cairns, you know, you're going to have your fermentation process kickstart. It's going to be active a lot earlier probably than someone down in South Australia. So please just keep all of that in mind. It's going to be different for everyone. Now, I talked to you earlier on about what we actually need to get going. So let's run through all of that. So first of all, our flour. Now, you can actually make a sourdough starter totally with white flour. But you'll find that that fermentation process will take longer as a whole. Now, with the white flour, I love to use part of that because it just lightens up the mix. And the one that I like to use, I like to use a stone ground, but I haven't actually got any stone ground at the moment. But what I have got is this one here, and you'll notice it's unbleached. Unbleached, basically chemical free, and that's going to be extra good. So, but don't panic if you've just got White Wings plain flour. That's going to be fine. All right, but if you're going out to buy some, this is just from Woolies, but look for the unbleached flour. And even when you're making your bread, that's a good, we'll talk about that later. All right, unbleached white flour. And the other thing I like to start my starter off with is rye. Now, rye you can get from places like Source, Whole Foods, you can get it online, and lots of specialty stores or supermarkets will actually sell this. Why do I like to use rye? I like to use it because it's full of yummy goodness, and the yeast just love to eat it. Eating it, they're filling themselves up, they're happy, they're active, and that's what's going to help that fermentation process. So I use a combination of the flour, of the white flour and the rye flour. So water. So the water that I'm using, I've heated to about 21 degrees. This is water, filtered water from my fridge, and I've just warmed it literally for about 10 seconds in the microwave. And the reason why I've warmed the water is because my house is cold. It's 19 to 20 at the moment, and if you remember, I said ideally we want an environment that's about 21 to 26. So just think about that, remember that. And because I've warmed it up a little bit, it's just going to help in that process. And if I just take a quick temperature check, just pop this on. So this is 25. So I probably like it a little bit warmer, but it doesn't matter. You know, it doesn't matter. What you don't want is to use cold water, okay? It needs to be room temperature or 27. So another little temperature to keep in mind is the death temperature for yeast, and the death temperature for yeast is basically 65. So we won't get anywhere near those temperatures, but you don't want to put boiling water in, or you don't want to put your starter in an oven, because the chances are you're not going to have that kind of control. Okay, right, so 8 in your house in Perth. Oh my God, Christine, that's going to be freezing. But knowing you, you've got a really good sweet spot. So the sweet spot, basically, what you need to do is just go all over your house and find somewhere that's nice and warm. And in this house here, I've really struggled to find that spot. So I'm doing a couple of other things. In my previous house, I used to have a water filter, and I used to sit my yeast just behind the water filter. It was an electrical one, and it was just the most perfect environment. My starter was just fantastic, bubbling away. It was just the best spot. Another spot you might have, if you're able to pop your starter on top of your fridge, that will actually be a bit of a warm environment. But if you get really stuck, you can do things like popping it in your oven with the light on overnight, something like that, you know, so you could actually do that. What you don't want to do is to stick it on the windowsill. And why? Because on the windowsill, you're going to get direct hot sun, and we don't want it hot. We want to maintain that temperature, 20 to 26 degrees. So Christina, your 20 degrees in Coffs is going to be perfect. Great day for making sourdough. So that's awesome. All right, so let's get started. So actually the other things that we need, you just need a spoon, any old spoon, a nice small spatula. This is for our scraping. And you need an elastic band, a nice thick elastic band that will fit around your jar. And we use this because as your starter grows, it's a visible marker for us to see how much growth we've got in our starter. So we can't make our first loaf of bread until that starter has doubled in size. So that's what we're looking for, and that can take anything from 7 to 14 days. So we're looking for that doubling in size. The jars, you can use whatever jar you want. You can use a plastic jar, glass jar, I've just got this jar here. I need to go and buy another jar because I've obviously got my starters from which I've started probably about 6 years ago, and it's still going. But this one is about 300-400. You want to go for about 600, 700, 800. That's going to give you plenty of room for the growth. And when it pulls back again. And I like to work with 2 jars, but you can just work with 1 if you want to. And the thing is, these jars get really messy. If you've made sourdough before, you'll know these get really messy. And I just like to transfer them into another jar. So you could also use a jar like this. Either way, you want a jar with a lid. And what will happen is you will actually leave that lid loose when we're making. So, you know, what I used to do with this one is to take the bigger part and then just to kind of hold it down a little bit. You could put a chucks cloth over it, a bit of cheesecloth over it, or you could, or you could actually take the lid, which is what I tend to do, and just sit it on top. Because what you want is all the natural microbes, bacteria and yeast that we have in the environment all around us to actually go into that, but you don't want any bugs and things to go in there. All right, and on your Thermomix for today, I've just got a set of measuring scales because it's a little bit easier for me on the video, and that's it. We're ready to rock and roll. All right, so I can read what you're doing here, but let's just get going. So grab your jar. Make sure your jar is nice and clean, very important. And I'm just going to move this down so everyone can see clearly what I'm actually doing. Now, so what I'm doing is I'm obviously tarring back my scales. And it doesn't matter what order you do this in. I'm just taking some flour and I'm going to put 30 grams. Now, there's lots of ways of making a starter. I like to use the 1:1:1 ratio. So what that means, or the 1:1 ratio, what that means is I'm using 3 elements, 2 flours, 1 water. So I want the flour and the water to be the same measurement. Okay, so with the flour, because I've got 2, what I'm going to do is add in 30 grams. And I'll put all this on a little cheat sheet and I'll put this up today on my Facebook page. So 30 grams is going in. So 30 grams of rye. Okay, take a little bit out. Okay, 30 grams, done. And the same amount in the rye flour. So 30 grams of the unbleached white, tarring it back, adding in 30 grams of the rye. Okay, you will get into the habit of doing this a lot. All right, so 30 grams of the rye's gone in. So just to recap, in my jar I've got 30 grams of white, 30 grams of rye, and now to that, because now this is the 60 grams, I need to add 60 grams of that warmish water. So tarring it back, adding in 60 grams. Okay, and then with my little spatula, all I'm going to do now is to, you can just see it's just all in there, is to just mix this up. And it's lumpy and yeah. So you can see, let me just pop this up here. That's kind of what I've got. Lumpy, it's dollopy, and you'll start to see a change in that. All right, so mix together, and what I'm going to do now, you can see this jar, how mucky this is getting. I'm going to get my spatula and I'm just going to tidy up my jar by scraping down all those little excess bits. Okay, I'm just flattening that surface a little bit. Okay, keep your jar nice and clean. Perfect. So there you go. That's my starter in the nice clean jar. And then what I need to do is to take my elastic band. It's not going to make a difference for tomorrow, but I like to just always put it on. It's just a habit. And I'm going to move this band around so that you can actually follow where your starter is. All right. And in the days to come, this is going to be a very useful visual. Okay, so there you go. That's it. That's all there is to making the starter on day 1. Lid is going to go on, and I'm going to pop that in my sweet spot. Now, what else do I need to tell you? There was something that just came to my mind and I can't remember what it was. Can't remember. But that's the main part of all of that. So what will happen now, we will just leave that until 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. Now in terms of timing, you can start this whenever you want, and you can basically choose the time that you want to do it. I would recommend in the morning because I cook sourdough once a week, and I'm going to give you my routine, but you can do it more often. I just find it easier if I cook the sourdough once a week. I tend to do smaller loaves, and then I will freeze the excess. And what that means is that I feed my starter once a week, but I'm going to go into that later. But the thing is, if you find the same time, so, you know, before you go to work each day will be a good time for you to do it. It doesn't take long at all. Right, that's it. Okay, so day 1 sourdough. Have fun if you're making it today. And if you're not sure about where to get rye, just order it Amazon online. God, I love Amazon. Andrew hates Amazon because I'm buying so much on Amazon. Let's not go off on a tangent. But yeah, so that's it. Day 1 starter. Just to recap, 30 grams of your unbleached white flour, 30 grams of your rye, 60 grams of room temperature water, a water that's ideally around 27, no hotter. You're going to mix those all up. Put the band on, loosely fit on the lid and find somewhere nice and warm to keep it. You can put it on the windowsill, but as long as you haven't got that direct sun, you've got to make sure you're not going to hit anywhere near that death temperature of 65. It needs to be ideally somewhere 21 to 26. So think about on top of the fridge. I remember now what I wanted to say. But try and find that hot spot. And the thing that I was going to say, what I want you to do is have a smell, okay? And I want you to do that regularly as we progress each day. So at the moment, it smells just like flour and water, okay? You'll start to smell that fermentation process, hopefully in the next few days. All right, everybody, you have a beautiful, beautiful day. Spelt flour, yes, you can use spelt flour, but I wouldn't use 100%. You can, but you're going to get a much tougher starter. I love the half and half. The yogurt. Gosh, guys, I'm naughty. I like to put a teaspoon of yogurt in this. So this is my own yogurt, but I just keep it a little bit to do my next batch in one of these little jars. And all I'm doing is adding in a teaspoon into the first day. And I'm just going to mix that through. Now, you don't need to. You can just use the 2 flours and water. But what the yogurt does, it gives it an extra feed. So those little yeast, as they're starting to ferment, will actually munch on those extra microbes that are in that yogurt. Often I will add a little bit of apple into here, like, half a little wedge of apple. And the microbes absolutely love that, and it gives it a beautiful flavour. So you could actually put a little chunk of apple in there if you wanted to. We will take that out eventually. All right, so that definitely is it all. I knew there was something. Gosh, I'm naughty. I need a check sheet. All right, I'm going to put all this up for you. Thank you, everyone. I will see you tomorrow, same time, same place. Have a beautiful day. Bye for now.